Desire is a human emotion, and I am not human. I am not alive. I do not think in the way people do.
So technology continues to advance at the rapid rate. The Robotics AI Institute has developed the Ultra Mobility Vehicle, also known as a UMV, which is a self-balancing robotic bike that's capable of navigating challenging terrain and even jumping into high surfaces. Now, it's using AI to develop this thing called reinforcement learning, which is playing a key role in the ability for these robots to adapt to complex situations and perform better. Unlike regular self-balancing bikes, this UMV does not use a gyroscope for stability. Instead, it moves like a regular bicycle, and it steers with its front wheel while shifting a weighted top section up and down to maintain balance. The reinforcement learning allows it to learn movements that would be difficult to achieve with conventional control methods. Now, the only real challenge right now is riding in reverse or riding backwards, because that's really highly unstable right now, especially if it's on uneven ground.
This is wild. A company called Clone Robotics just released new footage of their first ever BiPedal Musculoskeletal Android. It's a robot that is designed to work in your home. And as you can see, it looks a lot like a human. They're only manufacturing 279 of these, and it's gonna come with the following preset skills. It will memorize your clean home layout so it knows exactly how to clean your house. It memorizes your kitchen inventory so it knows where everything goes. It's capable of witty dialogue. It will shake hands with your friends, pours drinks for you, makes sandwiches for you, washes, dries, and folds your clothes, vacuums your floors, turns the lights on and off, sets the dining table, loads and unloads the dishwasher, follows you around, not sure how I feel about that one, holds items for you, retrieves items for you, charges itself, and it's equipped with the telekinesis training platform that allows you to teach it new skills. That, coupled with the fact that AI is predicting that it will fully take over in the next 23 years, has me wondering if we are living in the real life Westworld. As always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
Y'all, the next war of our lifetime is going to be ridiculously scary. Let me walk you through some realistic scenarios. And believe it or not, everything I'm showing you is 100% real. Alright, so first picture this. Y'all are able to wipe out the enemy team. You're right in front of a pond, and all of a sudden, thousands of drones come up out the water. Yes, attack drones can now sit at the bottom of lakes and other bodies of water with weaponry and come out whenever they want to. And when you least expect it, bam, they are everywhere. Y'all thought you had it down, but that's only 1/10. Let's keep moving on. Now, if you happen to be blessed enough to survive the drone avalanche, and also the nuke avalanche, too bad they know where every single one of y'all are hiding, because they put thousands of satelloons right above our head. But even more dangerous than this is the all-seeing tech soldiers. But not so quick, my friend, because you still gotta deal with the holograms. Enemy countries will be actively throwing holograms in the sky to make people think their gods are coming. And in conjunction with the satelloons, they'll make you be able to hear it too. And many people at this moment will let their guard down and boom. Alright, so somehow you made it through all that stuff. Now the iron mixed with clay can start looking for you. And these AI techno soldiers can see your heat signatures. They can basically read your thoughts. You think it's far-fetched? Your phone camera does that. Somehow you win, you defeat them, you call on your dog to go home, but boom, it's not your dog. It's a robo dog, hits a flamethrower, and you're done.
Hey friends, so AI can now generate video games, but not only that, AI can generate video games on the fly while you're playing them. And this has some profound implications for what reality is, especially in the lens of what I call simulator theory. So, if you don't know, so a basic video game, when you're playing it, that was created by a video game developer and designer previously, and you're just playing that game. But now, AI can make games that while you're playing the game, it generates the game as you're playing it in real time, which means there's no end to it, okay? If you keep going in a certain direction, it'll keep rendering and keep creating that level and the characters and the experiences as you're playing it. There's no end, and it can go on forever. Now, this made me think, is that what life is? Is that what this reality is? Because think about it this way. As we start looking further into space and deeper into our own subatomic structure, we're finding more and more things that we didn't think would be there, things that are breaking our current understanding of physics. For example, we used to think the atom was the smallest thing, and then we realized it had subatomic particles, and now we realize that there's actually these like gluons and little things inside the subatomic particles, and it keeps going and going. Now we'll smash those things together, like what they do at CERN, and discover that there's things, and it keeps on going like those Russian dolls. We have bacteria and viruses all over our skin that we can't even see. We didn't even know those existed until we invented microscopes, and we looked and we're like, oh my god, there's stuff everywhere. And now that we look inside those, we find that there's cells, and then we look inside the cell and we find there's ribosomes and mitochondria, and then we look inside that and there's smaller things inside that. It keeps going and going and going. When we look out into space, like with the James Webb, we keep finding things that break our understanding of space and astrophysics, and we're like, whoa, we didn't expect to see that there. And then we think, okay, the observable universe ends here, and now we're appearing beyond that, so things keep going and going. It's almost as if the game of life, this virtual simulator that we're in, will just keep rendering and creating things the more we look. And that's exactly what this AI is doing with video games. And it just makes you think, is this an as above, so below type of a thing? I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about. Let me know what you think. Have a beautiful day.
Learning the secrets of ancient China is realizing they have more pyramids than anywhere in the world. More than Egypt, they might even have the biggest one in history, dwarfing both Giza and the infamous Bosnian pyramid. This is going to shatter your entire view of history. Found just outside the city of Xi'an in China's Shaanxi province are hundreds of pyramids dating back thousands of years old. And on record, pretty much all of them are unexplored to preserve their history. First brought to light in 1912 when American traders Fred Meyer Schroeder and Oscar Mammon were traveling across China when they met a Taoist priest along the route who told them about 7 previously unknown pyramids they decided to check out. In his diary, Schroeder wrote about a group of pyramids they saw in the Xi'an region that towered between villages and farmlands, some even in the forest. He documented everything, noting a particularly enormous one that he claimed to be at least 1,000 feet in height, possibly higher. For the record, the tallest official pyramid in the world is the Great Pyramid of Giza at 450 feet. The tallest unofficial one, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, at 720 feet, which will definitely trigger the Google debunkers. This one in China was allegedly more than twice the height of Giza, which is just unimaginable. It was a mystery for quite a while, thought to be a hoax or a grand miscalculation. But then, in 1945, US Air Corps pilot James Gossman makes an interesting observation. He was flying from China to India when he looks out his window and claims to have seen a gigantic pyramid about 1,000 feet high, with a shimmering white jewel-like crystal as its capstone, which thus became known as the mythical Great White Pyramid. Just 2 years later, in 1947, Colonel Maurice Sheehan, a director of Transworld Airlines, reported the exact same structure while flying and even took a photo of it. That's 3 separate accounts of the same 1,000-foot pyramid, surrounded by hundreds of smaller ones. Today, almost all of these pyramids are completely covered in grass, and we still don't know what's inside them or even exactly how they were made. Most of them are pretty low, commonly referred to as mounds rather than pyramids, featuring flat tops where other structures were thought to have been built on. And these mounds are confirmed by governments and archaeologists to be legitimate man-made structures, not natural formations. There are hundreds of these pyramid mounds in the region, yet they're almost entirely unexplored, at least to Westerners, as their government restricts study, excavation, and even visiting many of these structures to anyone but their inner circle, with the 1,000-foot Great White Pyramid now commonly regarded as a myth, as no one has formally been able to study it up close. But attempts have been made. In the early 90s, German investigator Hartwig Hausdorff did search for it, but was unsuccessful. As he reported, Chinese military meticulously patrolling the exact region it was supposed to be in, which ended his expedition. Strangely too, local farmers are apparently encouraged to plant trees on the pyramids, almost like they're trying to cover them up. In the year 2000, China released a statement saying they've discovered about 400 pyramids in the Shaanxi province alone. Egypt has about 120 confirmed pyramids. Sudan, the official leader of pyramids by sheer numbers in the world, about 250. 400 is more than both of those combined, although many of them are officially considered mounds. Strangely too, while dozens of official news articles reported on this 400 number in 2000, recent reports have scaled that number down to about 40. And the pyramids here are once again lined up with the cardinal directions, northeast, southwest, a common trait among virtually every pyramid in the world. There's a grouping of pyramids whose positioning appears to be just slightly misaligned from the Gemini constellation. correlation, but computer analysis determined would be perfectly aligned during the spring equinox of 10,500 BC, suggesting that's when they may have been built. Others are aligned with the Orion constellation, just like the pyramids of Giza in Egypt and the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico. 3 different continents, thousands of kilometers apart, all using similar construction patterns, and also happen to be aligned in an almost perfectly straight line with each other on a global scale. Is this an indicator of shared ancient cultural knowledge among these civilizations that we're not aware of? Or perhaps even a singular source that built them all, both of which would be groundbreaking discoveries. And this isn't the first time this correlation was made. In 1785, Joseph de Guines, a French historian, wrote an essay in which we prove the Chinese are an Egyptian colony, bridging a connection between the two cultures based on not only the presence of pyramids, but also similarities in cultural practices and writing styles. Remember, these are all just theories, but please kindly do share your opinions if you disagree. Maybe they were built as tombs, as history suggests, even though many of them lack historic records on their construction. And this doesn't even touch upon the Anlong Mountains further south, which they insist are just natural formations, and like, okay buddy. And the problem is, with their country's restrictions, we can't even go in and study the pyramids of Xi'an ourselves if we wanted to. So much of our world's history is guarded by the red tape of the governments whose countries these sites are found in. Everything we claim to know is simply just what they allow to be made public. If there ever was some previous advanced civilization that existed here tens, even hundreds of thousands of years ago that got wiped away by some worldwide cataclysm, do you really think those in charge would let that information go public and risk losing all their power in the worldwide panic that would follow? Like, if it happened to them, who were allegedly more advanced than us, then what's stopping it from happening again to us?
There's actually no good explanation for these. Forget explaining them, no one can even move them. These are the enormous granite boxes of the Serapeum. The ancient Egyptians felt it necessary to put 24 granite boxes underground. All of them except that one were found opened, and there was nothing in them. Each of them are 70 to 100 tons carved out of granodiorite, which is a little bit harder than normal granite. It is said that they contained the mummies of bulls, but none were ever found. Those dents are where cracks were. They carved them out so they wouldn't spread. But who cares about a crack if you're making it as a coffin for a mummified bull? The only way a crack would spread is through vibration or fluctuating hot and cold, called heat cycling. That sounds functional to me. When I went there, you could get in and look at this one. It is perfectly cut with a mirror finish, but when you look close, you'll see that the box is so hard they could only scratch the hieroglyphs in. So why did they put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari when they could clearly make hieroglyphs very deep like these ones in Luxor? That's red quartzite, and those hieroglyphs are carved about an inch deep into the rock. So the dynastics couldn't carve in the box and we can't move it. But the claim is they were rolled on logs that would theoretically explode under the weight. None were ever found, and we would need 500 really jacked dudes to move this sucker. There's not enough space for a forklift, or we would have moved it, let alone 500 dudes. Here's another thing. If they didn't have electricity, they would have had to light this tunnel with fire. But as you can see, there's no soot on the ceiling. Now, any other temple in Egypt that you go to that's been re-inhabited has a thick layer of soot on the ceiling. How did they see? There's also a closed off area with the biggest box that's shoved against a corner. You can't fit a human back there to get leverage to lift it. Now, all of these boxes are connected by underground tunnels to the step pyramid of Djoser. Now cross-reference what the Egyptians, the Hindu, and the Sumerians were all actually talking about when they were referring to the bull. That might make a lot more sense.
Archaeologists have just discovered the first pharaoh's tomb in more than 100 years. Thutmose II is the last undiscovered king of Egypt's 18th dynasty, and now that they've astonishingly found his tomb, it's become the most significant archaeological discovery since 1922, which is when they found Tutankhamun's tomb. And although Thutmose's mummy was missing, they discovered artifacts with inscriptions of his name, and it also appears the tomb to be flooded. So now they believe that more of its contents, and his mummy of course, were moved to a new undiscovered crypt nearby. The director of the excavation said the possible existence of a second and most likely intact tomb of Thutmose II is now an astonishing possibility.
You're going to want to hear this. Don't you think it's odd that Alaska is part of the United States of America? The real reason is far darker and more complex than you have been led to believe. Deep within Alaska, there is a black pyramid, an ancient structure that is buried beneath the ground, emitting powerful energy. In 1992, an earthquake in China revealed this pyramid near Mount McKinley. This discovery was picked up by spy satellites, revealing its location to external nations. Indigenous Alaskan tribes also speak of a powerful sacred structure which fits the exact same description as the structure captured on the satellite. But it gets even crazier. According to ancient scripts, the Black Pyramid is part of a global network of ancient energy generators. These pyramids were scattered around the world by a civilization that used to walk with the gods. The purpose was to harness and distribute energy across the world. The same network includes the Great Pyramid of Giza. Since the founding of the United States, extra effort was placed into colonizing Alaska with the aim to reverse engineer the pyramid's technology for modern use.
So this library has been discovered in Tibet, and it was sealed up. And it has 10,000 books or ancient texts. 84,000 books telling 10,000 years of human history, supposedly. Now, only a little bit has actually been translated. I think it was like 5%. But this is insane. It was sealed in like side a wall. Can you imagine opening up on a wall and just seeing all these books in text? I don't know what language it's written in. I think it's like this was built, they determined in like, 1073. And it was sealed in a 60-meter long, 10-meter high wall in Tibet containing 84,000 secret books telling 10,000 years of human history, and only 5% has been translated.
Have you guys ever heard of Death Mountain in North Russia?
Death Mountain?
This is probably one of the craziest connections, connecting a lot of stuff that we've talked about on the podcast. It's a very tall mountain, like one of the tallest mountains in the region. A very spiritual place. The ancient tribesmen, the Sami tribes, they say that it's where these giants used to live.
Of course.
And there's this giant flood. And these evil giants, who they say came from the fallen gods, went to this mountain to escape the flood. Some of them went into the earth. They believe that there's the spirits of these evil giants still roam on this mountain today. There are 16,000 megalithic boulders that are bouncing on smaller rocks. They believe that these boulders were placed by the giants, and they act as a portal to another realm. So they say that these giants are actually very hard to kill because they could go to these portals and escape into the spiritual realm.
Dude, is that what Bigfoot is? Just a hairy giant?
Dude, it makes you
This is going
think.
to be a very long video. Prep yourselves. You're going to get a lot of knowledge out of this, including the Nephilim knowledge that they tempted the humans with in order for the humans to worship the Nephilim. I know, it's a lot. Prepare yourselves for the ride. First off, I'm going to preface, this technology is not demonic. God created this technology and put it on this earth for a reason. The Nephilim were just the first to use it. This technology is only demonic if you are using it with the heart posture of a demonic person. With that being said, worship God, not the science that God made. You guys are going to explode once you realize how simple and cool and in front of our faces this was the whole time. I'll give you a little sneak peek of what it is. This is it. This is it. There's a lot that goes into this, but this is it. Also going to be showing you guys all the things that I tested with it to make sure that it works. Side note, it works. Let's get into it. Worship Jesus, the Son of God, and Jesus only. Let's do it. Fallen angels came down to earth, cohabitated with the women of the earth, had this half-breed thing called the Nephilim. Those were the giants of those days. That is what is seen in Genesis. That's why God had to flood the earth. Because that Nephilim blood, the half-breed fallen angel thing, the Nephilim blood was everywhere. It was tainting the human genetics. Those Nephilim, because they were descendants of the fallen angels, they had a crap ton of knowledge. They tempted humans with that knowledge in exchange for them getting worshipped by the humans. It was just a pretty much big F-you to God. They were the ones who built the pyramids. Surprise! How else do you think you're going to build a big pyramid? You're going to need giants. Giants with a lot of knowledge. Or just a lot of slaves. Now I'm going to get into what the pyramids are made of, why they work, and what they do. The pyramid is primarily made up of limestone. The insides of the pyramid, though, every single room is primarily made up of granite. Granite is primarily made up of quartz. Each room inside of the pyramid is airtight. Why would that be? It's to pressurize the quartz in the granite walls. When you pressurize quartz, it releases negative ions, which can actually preserve organic material. Yep, the pyramids were just one huge organic material preserver. My theory, this could be wrong, is that the Nephilim were trying to preserve dead bodies so that their spirit could inhabit them when they die, so they'd pretty much live forever on Earth. I don't know if they were successful or not. I don't care about the Nephilim. They can go heck off. So, I tested out myself. The resin is supposed to mimic the organic material being the limestone. Inside of this, there's a crap ton of iron filings, just metal dust, copper filings, and a lot of quartz. Quartz, metal, resin. This is actually the exact dimensions of the Pyramid of Giza. You see those lines in the middle of the sides? That is technically another side. So this is an 8-sided pyramid, just like the Pyramid of Giza. So, to test this out, I hung half of banana over this pyramid, and the other half I hung on the other side of the room. This is the results after 2 weeks. 2 weeks. The banana that was hanging over the pyramid was completely preserved on the inside. Yes, the outside was crusty, but the inside, it was literally like if you were to peel a green banana open, that's what you would see. The one that wasn't hanging over the pyramid, it was rotten, it was moldy, it was gross. This stuff works. This can also prevent EMF signals, so if you put it by your Wi-Fi, it can dumb down the EMF signals because those can harm you over long periods of time. I just put it under my bed though. It's preserving my organs. Anyways, I hope you guys got something out of this. All that stuff is very real.
Remember, mercury is a living substance. It's just like water. And red mercury, when you put it in front of a mirror, you won't see the reflection. If you take mercury and you spin it in a circle like this, you create voltage. This is what, when you look at the old world buildings, the cathedrals, they had these orbs up on top of these cathedrals. Those orbs can contain mercury, and they're brass on the outside or gold on the outside. They're iron on the inside, and they got mercury in the center. And what would happen is if a lightning strikes or the bell would ring, you would get a spiral which would take place, and you got free electricity simply by just a little bit of mercury. Now, mercury in the mouth is a different story. What about red mercury? That's a great one. So red mercury is mercury mixed with iron oxide. Remember, mercury is a living substance. That's what it is. It's just like water. So when you mix mercury with iron, it'll actually put it together. It won't eat it, but it will put it together. And that's where the whole red mercury comes from. And red mercury, when you put it in front of a mirror, you won't see the reflection, which is really fascinating. It's invisible, is what's really cool. Now, if you take mercury and mix it with other metals, it will begin to eat them because it's a living substance.
So this is the Eclectic History of the United States, and I just read through stuff. But this is really interesting. This is the Chicago fire of 1871 and 1872. For 2 days, Chicago was burning solid masses of stone, iron, and brick, making scarcely more resistance to the fierce heat than the lightest wood buildings. Iron, stone, and brick were just burning like wood. And then again in Boston, granite and brick were laid to ashes. So any fires that are happening now that are just destroying everything, it's been happening for years. The Eclectic History of the United States. 1881. Talks about the Vikings being here first. Talks about a civilization that lived in Chicago, the mound builders that were of a different race than the Indians. They had like 5-6 story houses and gardens.
So around the world, they're discovering these Roman era mosaics underground. This one's in Italy, but then in other places of the world, they're finding them too. This one's in Croatia. I believe it's Croatia. I mean, they're underground. They built buildings and stuff on top of this. I think this is London. There's more. Like just in the city, they're just underground. And look at the detail of it. And the more they dig, the more they find them. How long does it take to lay these tiles? Like in Turkey here, even right on the water, even under the water, they're there. Does that say something about sea level, I guess? Climate change, or that won't be climate change. Well, whatever you think. Then in Syria too. So they're scattered around. I mean, and these are like Roman era tiles. They're pretty cool design. In Morocco, this one's detailed. And this one is deep.